Hi, my name is Sophie, and this is part three of my series on Sudan. I think it's really important that people understand the severity of what is happening in Sudan, and that is why I'm doing this series. This is about Israel, and this is specifically discussing why Israel is intertwined in this. If you didn't know, Israel is not only committing a genocide in Palestine, but Israel is also connected with the UAE, who are funding the RSF, and the RSF is the paramilitary that is currently conducting the worst humanitarian crisis of our lifetime. The connection between Israel and the UAE started during mainly the Abraham Accords. The Abraham Accords literally was also the catalyst for the genocide in Palestine. It literally all started with Trump. Surprise, surprise. The Abraham Accords are a set of agreements that establish diplomatic normalization between Israel and several Arab states, beginning with the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain. Announced in August and September 2020 and signed in Washington, D.C. on September 15, 2020, the accords were mediated by the United States under President Donald Trump. The UAE and the Bahrain became the first Arab countries to formally recognize Israel since Jordan in 1994. In the months that followed, Sudan and Morocco also agreed to normalize relations with Israel, although Sudan's agreement remains unratified as of 2024. In July 2025, it was reported that the second Trump administration was seeking to expand the accords to include Syria, Lebanon, and Saudi Arabia. By recognizing Israel, it's basically giving a fuck you to Palestinians, and by putting the embassy in Jerusalem, the Israeli embassy in Jerusalem, it's basically saying, oh, it's Israel now, it's not Palestine. It's really fucked up. It's one of, if not the catalyst for the genocide in Palestine, and also one of the catalysts for the connection between Israel and UAE. Since establishing official relationship in 2020, the relationship between Israel and the UAE was strongly reinforced with public diplomacy, numerous signed agreements, including reciprocal visa-free travel in 2020 and free trade agreement in 2022, as well as expanded tourism and trade relationship until the diplomatic impact following the Gaza war. It's a genocide, just saying. How RSF is adopting Israel's template for genocide in Sudan. This is from Al Jazeera. For years, Israel has used human rights terminology to whitewash killing civilians. Now the RSF is doing the same. A template for genocide. Throughout Sudan's civil war, the RSF has used human rights jargon and terms from international humanitarian law, the legal framework designed to protect civilians in times of war, to carry out atrocities. Musabel, the RSF advisor, told Al Jazeera that the high civilian death toll was due to the joint forces using, quote, human shields without providing evidence. The RSF has also mimicked the Israeli tactic of carrying out mass expulsions under a humanitarian guise. Since October 7th, 2023, Israel has pushed 2.3 million Palestinians into smaller and smaller pockets of land, which it described as safe zones in Gaza. How people are normalizing the genocide for the past 2 fucking years is how the UAE is getting away with the fact that they're funding the humanitarian crisis in Sudan. These connections are really important because if it wasn't for the Abraham Accords, if it wasn't for emboldening the connection and relationship between the UAE and Israel, their relationship may not be as powerful. The RSF may not have used these Israeli tactics. And we know there's probably more tactics that they're using that we just don't know about yet because of the blackouts that are happening in Sudan. I think it's also important to note that the Houthis are using their minimum power of bombing boats that are trying to bring more weapons to Israel. UAE is trying to get around that by using Sudan, and I think if they're able to succeed, Israel will be able to get more weapons to kill Palestinians. This is why their relationship is so dangerous. And I think more and more people need to understand the Abraham Accords was one of the worst things that were ever created in the 21st century. And I don't think enough people understand that. By connecting two of the worst human rights violators in the entire world, you are enabling them to get away with fucking everything and anything. We need to speak out against this. I hope this was educational. If there's any questions, comments, or concerns, please write them below. Remember, I'm not someone who is an expert on Sudan. I'm someone who just believes in education because I believe education is power. And I think more people need to understand the breakdowns of what is happening in Sudan. Because if you don't know what's happening, it's a lot, it can be pretty overwhelming and very confusing. And I hope these breakdowns can be helpful. But if I'm missing anything or I didn't explain anything correctly, please correct me in the comments. And remember, free Sudan.